Masters, masters, masters of change.
Welcome to Masters of Change. My name is Kim Cunio and I'm the Head of Music at the Australian National University, and I'm joined each episode by Charlie Hogg. Charlie is the Director of the Brahma Kumaris in Australia, and Charlie and I are having what I think are very interesting spiritual conversations. So welcome again, Charlie.
Thank you so much, Kim. Great to be back.
So we have a title for our subjects. Really, the underlying title is Masters of Change. And at the moment we're talking about beliefs. Could you remind us what beliefs are in a spiritual sense?
Yes, Kim. We sometimes hold beliefs about ourselves which are irrational or not true, and they sort of almost become like mental obstacles to us transforming ourselves. And so what we've been, I suppose, exploring is what's really sitting underneath a lot of these beliefs we hold that, I think as we've discussed, I'm not good enough, you know, these sorts of things, and they're so powerful that they sort of distort my perception of myself and everything I do in life, really. And in a way, we're sort of seeing the spiritual journey as dismantling these beliefs. So I step into the person I can really become. You know, I step into a person who has a belief that I'm a good person, I'm a peaceful person, and that's the reality, actually.
So really what you're saying is we inherit these, maybe they're attitudes or assumptions about what the world is, and those attitudes are a bit bleak, really.
Yeah.
You know, they're saying that really we're a bit selfish and everyone else is a bit selfish and the world is going to pot, and just get on with it. But what you're saying is really, it's not like that. We can intervene right now and make a better life for ourselves right now.
We absolutely can, Kim. And one of the amazing things is that rather than trying to change out there, people and situations, what we're saying is I change these beliefs that I hold about myself, which are so ingrained, they're just a part of my thinking. And often I don't even realize I'm under the influence of these negative beliefs. So part of spirituality is becoming aware of these beliefs, aware of their impact on your life, and then just becoming aware of the wisdom and the practices to just gently move beyond these beliefs over time.
This is a beautiful introduction, and it opens up our discussion today, because we're talking about one of the hardest beliefs to get over, which is this sort of negative assumption that we're not worthy to be loved, or others aren't going to really love me. Now it's almost incomprehensible that we think this, but we do. Why do we do this, Charlie?
It's incredible, Kim, because I remember talking to a woman once in Melbourne. The Brahma Kumaris have a beautiful retreat centre there, and she was such a nice woman. But she said to me that she has this deep belief in her childhood she hadn't felt very loved. So she realized that she entered each relationship with a belief that perhaps people won't accept me, or even they'll reject me, they won't love me, which isn't a very healthy beginning to a relationship. And so it seems that the more we doubt the self, we doubt that you will, well, if I don't like me and love me, you probably won't like me and love me too. And so that fear of being accepted by the other, being loved by the other, or the fear that you may reject me is such a terrible feeling. And we know kids at schools, I think some kids are literally terrified of not being included in the in-group, or not being excluded. I mean, and we know how this happens even on social media today too, the incredible sense of exclusion. So I hold the belief, and then sometimes the fear means that this inclusion and exclusion game begins to be played.
So if this is happening really when we're very young, it means we probably need to do something to really look after the children of today.
Yes.
What sort of things would you suggest?
Kim, I I think a sense of respect or acceptance comes through attitude, you know. And you can say all the right words, oh, you're good, you're this, you're that, but if the person doesn't get the feeling from you, it does never work. So whether it's parental or whether it's even as a teacher, the sense of the value of the other. But really, I feel the greatest gift is to help someone step back into their own self-belief, you know, because that seems the highest mountain to climb in a sense that, because I don't love myself, I'm a beggar of your love. But actually, if I learn to love myself, I'll learn to manage life. Because life means that you'll get on with some people, but some people may not like you or accept you. That's the way life is, and you've just got to get on with the show.
So on one level, it's telling our children, but also, of course, telling ourselves at the same time, that you are okay as you are.
Yes.
That you are perfect.
Yeah.
And if they are that, why are they perfect? Why are they okay? And I think I know the answer to this question, Charlie.
Because I think that, their original nature, they are a soul, and their original nature is peace. So they may not be perfect on the surface in the present, but they have a blueprint for that goodness within them. And it's sort of like helping people tap into their goodness. And I once heard of an experiment, a very famous psychological experiment they did a long time ago with children. Some had blue eyes and some had brown eyes. And I forget exactly which was first, but they announced to the class that, we've done research and the children with brown eyes are more intelligent than the children with blue eyes. And you know what happened? They just told this fact. All the children with brown eyes started to get better grades and all the children with blue eyes started to go down. And then after 6 months, I think they said, no, we made a mistake. It was the blue-eyed kids that were more intelligent. And then their grades started to come up. So the real thing behind this is that when you your vision on people will make them grow or make them...
Yes.
Yeah, and that's where I think the way, we help people really step into their goodness is the inherent feelings that come through my mental attitude, through my face, through my vision.
So really what we're saying is that someone has to love and accept people, and that someone should be us.
Yes. Yeah.
It starts with us again, and this is really the theme of all our discussions, is that we have to be the change.
Yeah.
So if we see that others aren't being accepted, we have to be the most accepting and the most giving, and it starts from that. So I had an image when you were talking. It's sort of like how love melts obstacles.
Yeah.
And I just wanted you to describe the process of this sort of loving gaze towards another. You sometimes describe it as seeing the other as my brother or sister. What can this do over time?
It can have such a dramatic effect on someone's life. Because just sort of hold this image, someone can't see any good in themselves, which unfortunately is more common than not, thinks they're a bit hopeless, thinks they're not good enough, and someone close to them holds their goodness in their vision no matter what they do. And they're consistent. It's not some days they will accept them and some days not. They're so consistent. And so when that person gets that good feeling, they start to feel better about who they are. And I think actually it all begins with feeling that vision from God. Because I think God's vision on us is to our higher self. Our vision on ourselves is to our lower self. And if I wake up each day and I allow myself to sit in God's vision, have that vision, then it sort of rubs off on me and I start to sort of really hold that sense for others around me too. It's really, I think it makes leadership, it's the power of a great leader. A great leader won't just win respect for themselves. A great leader will build self-respect in others.
It's like it's almost like we allow the stories of others to really come into fruition, isn't it?
Yeah.
Rather than saying, actually, I know better.
Yeah.
And yet, funnily enough, what we most want is to be looked after like that by others.
Yes.
And as you said at the beginning of our discussion today, our great fear is not that we are powerful, it is that we are not powerful.
Yeah.
It is that we are inadequate and that it is inevitable that we will suffer, that all our relationships will just end badly. Now, I want to tell a little bit of a truth here. Nearly all our relationships will end. So we do have to come to terms with this, don't we, Charlie?
Yeah, we do.
You know, so could you tell us about the ones that end and the imperishable relationship?
Yeah. You know, I think, Kim, that the more I lack that sense of self-value, it's almost like a, I don't know, I imagine that you won't accept me, that you will reject me, and so I sort of live out my imagination. Really, it becomes reality. And it's incredible. I think we have such a habit to feel rejected by others, that they won't accept me. And I think that, you know, I really feel that when I've looked at my life, I've really tried not to notice that habit, to sort of expect sometimes. Sometimes we can expect people perhaps won't like me or accept me or will reject me, but actually, you know, it's more in my head. And so I sort of step into my belief system, basically. I create the reality. And even I think sometimes, Kim, people do show me love and respect, but I can't, because it's not in my framework, I've rejected myself, or I don't feel worthy to be loved. I can't experience it. I can't experience that love. And even when people are loving me, I believe they're not. You know, this is the power of belief. It just grips my perception, and I lock myself into a jail of that belief.
Charlie, it's a little bit scary, but also profound, isn't it? You know, because it is saying that we really are the masters of our own destiny, whether we like it or not. So at some point we have to say that we have to take control of our lives. Now, when you were speaking, I was thinking about this age-old teaching that even when we love someone and they love us, even that will end.
Yeah.
So there is no escaping the impermanency of corporeal relationships with other people.
Yeah.
No matter, even if there's hardly a fight, there'll always be some little thing, some little niggle. But no matter how cooperative, it will end.
Yeah.
And so what do we do when we come to terms with the fact that no matter, even if it's good, it's going to end? Where do we go?
I call that the greatest human dilemma, that no matter how close you are, for whatever reason, the object of love will go. Well, I think it's just a stepping stone into spirituality, because at the heart of spirituality is offering me a permanent relationship. Because the soul and the Supreme Soul both always exist. These bodies are temporary. And I think it's such a deep thing to get. But I think the issue for a lot of us is that, yes, that sounds really nice, but how to really feel that love of God, how to make it real. You know, sometimes I think we fall in love with the concept that God is loving. We like the idea that we have an all-loving being. But to not just believe in a concept, but to really feel a living, daily relationship. Like if you're close to a human being, you feel close to them, you're watching them, through your sense organs, you're connecting to them. I've got to make this relationship with God as real, and I can. But it's subtle, it's a different, and it's almost like I have to educate myself how to have this subtle relationship, not through the sense of the seeing and hearing and talking, but through the subtle feelings. And of course I can talk mentally, but the feelings, the exchange of feelings, which are really at the heart of even a good human relationship too.
Charlie, I want to paraphrase this in slightly scientific words. It's like we are antenna.
Yeah.
So we have like a physical antenna, and that's our organs, and we're all very used to them because they dominate us. But we do have a subtle antenna too. It's the spiritual antenna. And it seems to me that because it's so subtle, if we're spending all of our lives on the physical pursuits, as fun as they can be, that other more subtle antenna isn't really developing. But by giving more time in our daily lives to it, and maybe even occasionally giving lots of time to it, the sensitivity switch grows, and it's like those subtle signals become much stronger, and those sensations you've described can become actually very, very powerful. Has this been your experience, and have you seen it in others?
Absolutely, Kim, because even I think we're using that subtle power even in our relationships with each other, because we listen to the words, but we're constantly feeling feelings, and we're reading people in a subtle way. And in a way, we begin to use those qualities of reading or connecting with the lover of the soul, the Supreme Soul, because, that soul exists like me. I'm a soul sitting here, but I have a set of organs, and I've become so sort of lost in this set of organs to communicate and be a part of life. But actually, God doesn't have a set of organs, so that's my challenge, to sort of temporarily drop the awareness of this set of organs and learn this subtle sense of belonging and connectedness, and on a daily basis. So it really becomes a part of my my story. And I feel, sometimes I have the image that when I'm connected there strongly, no matter what happens around here, no matter how up and down life is, you can remain so stable. And I've seen people, just incredible things happen to them, and they remain so stable because they're under the influence of that relationship with the divine.
And do you think, Charlie, if we're having more of a relationship like that, that it inevitably comes into our human relationships?
It does, yeah. Absolutely, Kim. And I think it's almost like we have to go back to kindergarten to know how to have healthy, sustainable relationships with each other. And the kindergarten is to form it with God. And when I have that platform, I form it with myself. And then I've got that sense of, I don't know, I think it's because the relationship with God is so much built on goodwill, good feelings, I start to bring that into my relationships with others. So that doubt of others, or that dislike, that habit to dislike people, it's a very strange habit that when we sort of dislike, I don't like them. That's an incredible thing to say about, once Daddy Janki, who was the head of the Brahma Kumaris, I remember she said, she used a Sanskrit word, tamo pradhan, which is the grossest thing you can do in life is to reject another. She said, the human soul needs belonging and acceptance. That's how it flowers and flourishes. But when you really think, how do I feel if someone rejects me? Is there a worse feeling? And if I reject myself like that, or reject another, that's violence. Yes. It's actual violence that you and I were talking about in one of the recent episodes.
And it seems like these sensations are so strong, it's like we're almost unprepared for them.
Yeah.
So if we bring these gross experiences into our life, they just keep playing out through them, because it's like, I'm not sure if anyone's watched a horror movie, I'm not really into them myself, but we can make our own horror movie.
Yeah.
Or we can make our beautiful world drama.
Yeah.
And so it's like we are the cinematographers on this beautiful movie that is unfolding.
Yeah.
And yet we still, always, we have to come back to this hope, isn't it? The hope that we can have love and acceptance for everyone we meet, and that over time we will receive more of that, not that we're asking for it. Can you tell us about that funny dance?
Yeah. Well, I think the law of karma is that fascinating law that really it tells me that if I want love, give it. So the more I give love, life will give me love. If I want respect, give it. And I often remember Daddy Prakashmani, who was the head of the Brahma Kumaris, had an ability to respect everybody, literally everybody. It didn't matter whether they were the cleaner or the head of the country, she would give everyone respect. And so what happened? She won incredible love and respect from people. And she often used to say, those feelings are like blessings that uplift you. When you meet someone and someone is giving you those feelings of love or respect, it's like a gift, an energizer that it's like sometimes I think it's almost like a solar power, when they sort of, all the solar sort of mirrors go into a power, gathers all the power. It's like all the goodwill, it sort of uplifts you. It's like this sort of collective energy that just uplifts you. So that it keeps, if I give it, I will receive it. That's the law of life. And I think, often people enter a relationship thinking, maybe I better get them before they get me, sort of thing, And unfortunately that becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. I believe that relationships are just fighting and, I'll eat you before you eat me, or, that sort of thing. And then we wonder why we have a very, very unhappy life of relationships.
Charlie, I wanted to ask about something that is a little bit hard for some of us, because we all swallow a myth that there is romantic love.
Yeah.
We're brought up, it's in all the movies or the books, there's, a whole genre of romance books, isn't there? And they sell very well to men as well as women. I think everyone loves the idea that they can be Prince Charming or Cinderella and fall happily in love and live happily ever after.
Yeah.
And it's only a myth, isn't it? It seems to me the myth is based on something that we need to expose, which is that physical love is only temporary.
It's very temporary. And you know what happens today, I think, Kim, is there's sort of a manifestation of body consciousness and the need to be loved. We become infatuated with somebody, which is, we feel it's love because I just, someone is giving me that energy, but it's almost always temporary. And they say that love takes on different sort of phases. So maybe sometimes for a short while those romantic feelings are there, but then love deepens, and it becomes more a soul love. It's not so much the physical beauty or the physical wealth or the image of the other. It just really, the more you go into a relationship, you strip away all that superficial stuff. It's really fundamentally their character and the personality which sustains a long-term relationship. So it's like we're getting back to the real soul stuff. And that's why, I really love the idea that in a spiritual practice you work on yourself, and in a sense you're preparing yourself to have much healthier relationships with other people. It's almost like you're going back to square one and rebuilding my ability to contribute to a much happier, sustainable relationship with another.
Charlie, there's a practice that I remember the first time I went to Mount Abu, many years ago, that really stopped me in my tracks. And it was sitting down with a large group. We were in a beautiful room called the History Hall. I remember my first class. And one of the senior sisters, Dadi Prakashmani, who you've mentioned before, head of the Brahma Kumaris, what a soul. She gave the practice of drishti to everyone, and I'd never felt more loved or accepted in my entire life. So I would like to ask you a question. Could you describe this to us, and then could you take us on a meditation where you really manifest this notion of drishti and pure love to our viewers?
Yes, sure, Kim. I think that the Brahma Kumaris meditate with eyes open, which is an incredible sort of thing, really, because it means that meditation isn't something you sort of do behind a closed door and then, you step into life and you forget. You can actually carry your meditation into your practical life. But in a sense, you become a conduit. You remember God, and it's almost like that pure feeling comes through you, and you're just an instrument. And through your eyes, you pass on an energy or a feeling that sometimes helps others. But there's a deep, deep truth to this, and that is that, what am I doing? Normally when I see a human being, I start to think about their faults or their goodness or how they've treated me, my history of my relationship. What am I doing here? I'm still seeing a human being, but I'm remembering God. And the more I practice, it's almost like I keep close to God, and therefore, if they behave well or they don't behave well, I still maintain my sense of stability and peace and give them. So it's a very deep thing. It's almost like I'm, rather than seeing you and thinking all about you and my history with you, I keep remembering God. And so you also get those good feelings for me. And so it's almost like a foundational practice for healthy relationships, building healthy relationships.
Charlie, could you demonstrate this to us now?
You know, Kim, when we meditate with our eyes open, it's a wonderful thing to do because it sort of means your spiritual life meets your practical life. And once I was at the University of California in San Francisco, and there was a woman studying meditation there. And it was really interesting because what she was interested in was, do meditators carry the feelings of meditation into their practical life? Because it's an absolutely proven fact that meditators could lower their brain waves. And I was one of her guinea pigs, actually. And what she did was she actually got me to meditate, and she gave me all these problems to do. I had to count backwards from 1,000 in 17s and give her an answer closest to 0. And so she's putting me in a real life situation. And you know what she said? Those who meditate with their eyes open, actually, their meditation comes into their practical life.
This is fascinating, Charlie. I just wanted to say, Charlie and I were sitting here, the feelings and the vibrations were palpable. We hope you can get them on the screen. It's my belief that you can. That when Charlie gives you drishti, you are getting the essence of his love of God given to you. It's like the ultimate gift, isn't it, Charlie?
It is, Kim.
Yeah.
I think the gift through the eyes is just, it's a great gift, isn't it? And you know those eyes when they twinkle with goodwill, is something so special.
Yes, this reminds me, I know we've got to finish in a sec, but there's a famous little nursery rhyme, Twinkle, twinkle, little star, how I wonder what you are, up above the world so high, like a diamond in the sky. And it seems sometimes to me that this is the relationship between us as our individual beautiful souls and the Supreme Soul.
Yeah.
We're all stars in the sky. So Charlie, thank you for being a star to me and in the sky and to all of us today.
Thanks again, Kim. Wonderful.